no one ever really noticed Walter. He moved like a shadow through the hallways of Everglen Tech, pushing his mop cart with the quiet grace of someone used to being invisible. For nearly 2 decades, Walter came in every evening just as the last of the office lights dimmed, sweeping floors, emptying trash bins, and wiping away the smudges of another day's business hustle. He was 73, wiry, and always wore the same neatly pressed blue janitor uniform with his name embroidered in white cursive. But beneath the cap and humble demeanor was a man who had lived 1,000 lives, a veteran, a widower, a once promising mechanic whose dreams had been shelved for responsibilities greater than himself. Yet Walter never complained. His hands were calloused, his knees stiff, but his spirit remained unshaken. He hummed old Motown tunes as he worked, always with a smile, even when no one was looking. Some younger employees offered polite nods or brief hellos, but mostly, Walter was a ghost. Seen, but seldom acknowledged. Until one night. It was nearly midnight when the CEO, Richard Langston, emerged from his glass-walled office, looking ragged and spent. He was the golden boy of Silicon Valley, Harvard-educated, a tech visionary who built Everglen from a garage startup to a Fortune 500 powerhouse. But that night, Richard looked like a man who had lost his way. Walter was mopping near the lobby when he saw the young executive slumped on a leather bench, head in hands, tie loosened, laptop glowing beside him. "You all right, son?" Walter asked, his voice low and full of warmth. Richard looked up, startled. "Oh, yeah. Just, tough day." Walter gave a slow nod, then leaned on his mop. "You know, tough days have a way of making you remember what really matters." Richard chuckled bitterly. "And what's that?" "People," Walter said simply. "Family. Doing right by others, not just yourself." There was a long pause. Then Richard gestured to the seat beside him. "You got a minute?" Walter sat. And for the first time in a long while, someone listened to him, not just heard, but listened. He shared stories of love and loss, of raising his granddaughter after his daughter passed, of the war and the shop he once dreamed of opening. Richard talked too, about burnout, pressure, the loneliness of leadership, and the emptiness of chasing numbers. They sat for over an hour. When Walter finally stood to go, Richard shook his hand. "Thank you, Walter. I needed that more than you know." 3 days later, Walter received a letter. It was on Everglen letterhead, but it wasn't about janitorial work. It was an offer, a full scholarship for Walter's granddaughter to attend any college of her choice. Covered in full by the company. Along with that, a proposal to head a new mentorship initiative at Everglen, something Richard had been toying with but never implemented. He wanted Walter to be the first life coach on staff, someone who could guide young employees with wisdom, not just analytics. Walter was stunned. "Why me?" he asked when Richard called to explain. "Because what you said the other night changed me," Richard replied. "This company has money. But what we need more of, what I need more of, is soul. And you've got that in spades." News of the offer spread. Most employees were floored. The janitor? Mentorship leader? It didn't make sense, until it did. Walter's calm, authentic presence brought a new energy to Everglen. People began to gather around him during breaks, seeking advice about everything from careers to relationships. He didn't offer miracle solutions, just sincere stories and the kind of grounded truth only a life well lived could teach. And his granddaughter, Maya, now studies engineering at Stanford. She visits Walter every weekend, still in awe of the opportunity given to her. The board had been skeptical at first, but within a year, productivity and employee satisfaction rose. Turnover dropped. A culture shift was taking root, not driven by metrics, but by meaning. All because one night, a CEO had the humility to sit down with a janitor. And a janitor had the heart to speak the truth. The story of Walter and Richard became something of a legend. But in truth, it wasn't about titles or grand gestures. It was about listening. About seeing the value in every human being, regardless of their role. Walter never stopped mopping floors, even after his promotion. He said it reminded him of where he started and how far anyone could go when someone believes in them. Sometimes the most powerful offer isn't financial or strategic. Sometimes, the greatest investment a CEO, or anyone, can make, is simply recognizing the quiet greatness in others. And from that, miracles grow. Because behind every mop, there may be a mentor. Behind every tired pair of shoes, a trove of untold stories. And behind every unlikely encounter, the chance to change a life, maybe even your own.